Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Danielle, aka Stitcherista, here on YouTube, and today is another face-to-face chat and a true crime story time. So today's story is going to be called True Lies. Remember that movie with Jamie Lee Curtis? Yeah. Okay, that's not about that though. So, it is the lunch break on the arbitration today. And so, yeah, I was not able to do the video this morning like I normally do. So let's recap the weekend. Friday, got through the arbitration, so we got through an entire week. We had dinner, watched TV. Now, the next day, Bill was going hunting. So he was going to be gone till like 8 o'clock, like that night. And I had a hair appointment. If you saw my Instagram, yeah, I got hair cut, totally different color, like red with blonde. There's blonde streaks in it. And yeah, I like this much better than the dark, that's blonde right there. The dark roots. She did a really good job. And it was like night and day going to that salon versus my other one. I was there for 5 fucking hours. Yeah. But I really like her. She did such a great job. The salon looks very professional. I read so much of my book on my phone that I finished it. Like when I came home, I finished it. So all in all, a good experience. I go back in 8 weeks. She's like, if you have any questions about products or anything, she goes, text me. I'll give you some recommendations. And she's like, I wrote down all the colors that I put in your hair, so when you come back, we can see how it fades. If you want any more highlights or anything. That's how a fucking salon visit should be. And Bill and I were like, I had gone to like crackhead salon, I guess, before. I don't know, but I'm a firm believer that things happen for a reason. So I'm so glad that I found this person, Kayla. And the salon is like right next door to Chick-fil-A. Like I just had to drive a little bit. So I went there after I hadn't anything to eat. So I went there. I got out of there 3 o'clock. Got there at 10 a.m. Got out at 3 o'clock. Went and got a peppermint chip milkshake. Yes, indeedy. And a spicy chicken sandwich. So I got home about 3:30. And by the time I checked mail, ate, did all that, it was like 4. So I sat down to do some stitching. I filmed a clip for my video. Bill didn't get home until almost 8 o'clock. When he got home, we went to dinner at the local restaurant in our town. Like, we literally could walk to it from our house. And I got sushi, which I'll never get sushi there again because it's overpriced and it takes forever. The one good thing about the visit, though, was they have seasonal ales. Like, I'm becoming much more of, like, a beer person, but it has to be, like, an ale, like Angry Orchard or something like that. Like, I don't like Bud Light or Miller Lite or those kind of beers. I like the specialty ones. And I'm really getting away from like wine and hard liquor. I can't fucking do it anymore. I just can't. So I noticed on their menu, they had seasonal ales on tap. And I don't know if you know this or have had this experience, but beer on tap tastes so much better than it comes in the bottle. So I asked the waitress, I was like, what seasonal ales do you have? And she's like, oh, we have like a cranberry one. And I'm like, ooh, I'll try that. Oh my God, it was so good. I should have asked her the name of it because I might have been able to find it. Yeah, it was so good. I drank the whole thing. That was the best part of the meal. And then, of course, spending time with Bill. But yeah, so we came home and he was tired. We went to bed like 10 o'clock. Like, we went to bed early. It had been a long day, so we got up the next day and groceries, and we just relaxed the whole day. Like, most of the time on Sunday, I try not to go anywhere or do anything really. And yeah, I started a new book. So the new book that I started, and it's my 50th book, let's fucking go, hitting the reading challenge. So the new book is called The Neighbor's Secret, because I like those twisty turny. The Neighbor's Secret by L. Allison Heller. So the premise is, how well do you really know your neighbors? With its sprawling yards and excellent schools, Cottonwood Estates is the perfect place to raise children. The Cottonwood Book Club serves as the subdivision's eyes and ears, meeting once a month for discussion, gossip, and cocktails. If their selections trend toward twisty thrillers and salacious murder mysteries, it's only because the members feel secure that such evil has no place in their own cul-de-sacs. Or does it? What happened to Lena's family 15 years ago was a tragic accident, and she will never admit otherwise. Devoted wife and mother Annie refuses to acknowledge, even to herself, the weight of a past shame. And new resident Jen wants friends, but as always, worry about her troubled son gets in the way. When late night acts of vandalism target the women of the book club in increasingly violent and personal ways, they will be forced to decide how far to go to keep their secrets. At least they all agree on what's most important, protecting their children at any cost, even if it means someone has to die. So yeah, there's like in the beginning, and I'm only, I want to say 30 pages into the book. There's vandalism like to somebody's mailbox, something else in the town. So it must increase though, obviously, in the way that it is. And, you know, if you imagine that happening in your neighborhood, you'd be like, what the actual fuck, right? It's good so far though. So yesterday, now for the past, I wouldn't say 4 days, Bill keeps saying, oh, I need to wash my bed sheets. Oh, I need to wash my bed sheets. Oh, I need to wash my bed sheets. And I said, you're off next week. Wash them then. He's like, you get breaks during the day. Just fucking put them in the washing machine. I'll put them on when I get home. And I'm like, okay. Yeah, I want to use my breaks to do something for you all the time. No. But I did. So today has been an irritating day, somewhat. So I had to get to the post office today because one of my subscribers sent me like some patterns from 123 Stitch, and they messaged me yesterday and were like, you know, if you don't go pick this up, it's been sitting there. And I will admit, I've been lax about getting to the post office every week like I was. It's an hour round trip. So I was like, all right, I'll make sure I get there today. So that's why I couldn't record this morning, because I got up at right before 7, got myself ready, got the bed sheets and the fucking laundry in, and was at the post office. The post office opens at 9, and usually it's busy on a Monday. So I was like, I'm going to be the first one in line. So at 8:45, I was standing inside at the door. And you know what's so funny? It's like people just don't read or pay attention. The hours of the post office are on, like, it's almost like the doors are like these glass sliding doors. The hours are written right on the door. You fucking see it plain as day. So I'm standing there and I'm on my phone. Like, I'm looking on Instagram, I'm checking email, I'm doing that kind of stuff. Woman walks in, and I fucking shit you not, she sees me standing there. And all I have in my hand is the tag that they put in your P.O. box when you have to pick something up at the front desk, like when something won't fit in your P.O. box. So I'm standing there and I see the woman walk up and she tries to open the doors. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, I'm thinking to myself, and she's like, oh, I said, they don't open until 9. She's like, oh, I thought it was 8. Meanwhile, right in front of her face, like this, are the hours. And she's like, oh, I just thought you were on your phone. I didn't realize you were in line. Yeah, I'm fucking first. Because I need to get in here and get the fuck home. I need to get home. So they didn't even open the doors till like 5 after 9. I don't know what that was about. But yeah, I didn't get home until like 9:15, 9:20. So by the time I got home, got a cup of coffee, it was time to like start. So yeah. So we're working. My stepfather calls me and says, you may have to go pick up Charlize from school. She's not feeling well. He said the school, she's in the health room right now. I don't know if they're going to send her home. Because now in high schools, if a kid has the sniffles, they're fucking sending it home because of COVID. She just had a COVID test like a couple days ago, and it was negative. So I said, where's mom? And he's like, oh, we're at the courthouse. I forgot. My stepfather and my mom are in court today to finalize my grandparents' estate. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. I was like, okay, so I let my team know, hey, I might need to like leave and go get my sister and take her back to my mom's. The school's 10 minutes away. My mom lives right behind this school. I had to go do it. I was gone an hour. An hour. Yeah. Now, here's the difference, however, between me doing something like that and the rest of the team like doing something. So it happened in the middle of one of my sections, and I said, I'm just going to ask the person behind me to put my ending pin. I said, no one needs to pick up any of my sections because I'll catch up during the lunch break, which is an hour, or I will just catch up during the course of a day. No one ever has to pick up my slack. It's never happened. And I did. I got back. My other section was getting ready to pop up, and I caught up, and all is good. Yeah. But just that kind of stuff. And, somebody had commented on my video that I should be grateful. I should be grateful that I can help my boss and my team with problems. I don't mind assisting someone when I haven't said it 537 other times. That's the main issue I have, is that I repeat myself so much. And yeah, I will be so glad for the break next week. You have no idea. So yeah, all right. Today's story, because I still need to actually eat lunch during the lunch break. Okay, so today's story is called True Lies. Ever since he was a child. Oh, they also brought our new recycling bin because they couldn't fucking fix that. The wheel was broken off. A piece broken off. We have a new recycling bin, thank God. Okay. Ever since he was a child, Richard Paul White had been a compulsive liar. Richard seldom encountered a fact he couldn't twist, a narrative he couldn't bend to his needs. And the stories he told not only got taller as he aged, but darker too. When Richard was in his early 20s, he confided in his sister, Danielle, that he had been diagnosed with AIDS and wouldn't be around much longer. What? The truth was that he had been treated for a far less serious STD. Then Richard told Danielle, who appears to have been a frequent target for his dubious stories, that a close friend of his had died. 2 years later, Danielle encountered the man, alive and well, on a Denver, Colorado street. That was when she had decided that she'd no longer be taken in by her brother's lies, and from now on, she would treat everything he said with a healthy dash of skepticism. That policy would serve Danielle well over the years that followed. Richard's confessionals had now come to encompass felonies that he claimed to have committed. Why? If what he was saying was true, then he was a one-man crime wave carrying out a spree of burglaries and holdups. Danielle listened to these stories, nodded in all the right places, and urged him to stop, lest he end up behind bars. But Danielle knew that that would never happen. It wouldn't happen because her brother had done none of the things he claimed. Danielle always made a point of scanning the local papers, looking for news reports that would support Richard's boasting. Invariably, she came up empty, and eventually she stopped looking. When Richard confided in her that he had killed a prostitute, she begged him to stop telling her things she didn't want to hear, but she took it all with a healthy grain of salt. Much as she loved her brother, he was not someone who could be taken at his word. But did he really kill that prostitute? But then came a story that was at least partially true. By the way, I'm drinking a Javalia cappuccino. I love it. I actually got the mocha latte mix and the caramel macchiato, but the cappuccino is my favorite. Okay, in September 2003, a distraught Richard White showed up at his sister's house and told her that he needed her help. According to Richard, he had killed his friend Jason Zweigart, shooting him in the head, and he swore that it was an accident. Richard says, I was showing him the safety feature on my new gun, trying to show him that it wouldn't fire with the safety engaged. But the 9mm had fired, and to deadly effect. Jason had been hit in the face and killed instantly. Oh my God. What White now needed from his long-suffering sister was her help in evading the cops. He was heading out into the woods to lay low for a while, he said. He would need her to keep him supplied with food. Danielle was reluctant to be a part of such a scheme and told him so. She urged him to go to the police. If this really had been an accident, then surely it would be treated as such by the courts. Better to face whatever consequences were coming his way than to make things worse by going on the lam. Richard, however, was adamant. The cops are out to get me, he whined. They'll pin this on me as a murder. So eventually Danielle decided to just play along. Later that day, she drove Richard out of town and dropped him on a logging road in some remote woodland. She promised to return to the same spot in a few days to replenish his food supply. As she drove away, she convinced herself that this was another of her brother's lies, the most elaborate one yet. Except it wasn't this time. Jason Reichert was indeed dead, shot in the face just as Richard had claimed. The papers were reporting it as a suicide, though, which was both a good and a bad thing. On the one hand, Richard was off the hook. On the other, there was Jason's family, no doubt agonizing over why he would have taken his own life. Danielle could imagine herself in that position, tormented by the suicide of one of her own children. After mulling this over for several hours, she decided that Jason's family deserved to know the truth. Oh my God, here we go. Picking up the phone, she called the police and told them the whole story. Richard White was flushed from his woodland hideout later that same day and placed under arrest. See, he just should have come clean, right? Once in custody, White fell back on the same story that he had told his sister. He claimed that he had been demonstrating the safety features of his 9mm when the gun went off. He told investigators the damn thing fired with the safety engaged. But convincing a sister who desperately wants to believe your story is one thing. Fooling a couple of hardened homicide detectives who have heard and seen it all before is another thing entirely. "We don't believe you," one of the detectives told White after listening to his story. "And a jury won't either, so you'd better start telling the truth while you still got options." White was then left to consider his situation. Several hours later, he sent word that he was ready to talk. Only he didn't want to discuss the Reichert shooting. "What if I was to tell you that I could clear up some unsolved homicides for you?" he suggested. And so one of the detectives says, "Well, can you?" And White replies, "Depends on what's on the table. I'll take whatever jail time you want to throw at me as long as it's not on death row." Okay. The detectives, of course, could make no such deal. However, the DA was prepared to listen to what White had to say under strict conditions. White would have to make a full confession and would only be covered for the 3 murders he had mentioned. Once the suspect agreed to those terms, a deal was struck, and the next words out of Richard White's mouth would leave investigators stunned. He says, I got two bodies buried in my backyard. Do you now? That yard was at 2885 Albion Street, and White wasn't kidding about the bodies. Officers had barely started digging when they unearthed the putrefying remains of 2 women. 27-year-old Annalita Maria Gonzalez had been a prostitute, working the stretch of Colfax Avenue that is popular with streetwalkers in the Denver metropolitan area. She had disappeared from her regular beat in January 2002. Now the police finally knew what had happened to her. She had been brought back to Richard White's house and held there for hours, suffering torture and repeated sexual assaults before he eventually tired of his game and strangled her to death with a leather belt. Jesus Christ. The other victim, 32-year-old Victoria Lynn Turpin, had suffered a similar fate. According to White, he and Turpin had prayed together, and he was hoping for a sign from God, he said, telling him to spare his victim, and since no sign had come, he had killed her. So that was 2 of the 3 murders that White had promised to confess to. And what about the 3rd one? This one wasn't a hooker, White explained. I saw her waiting for a bus on Colfax, and I just knew I had to have her. This, he said, was because she resembled a Native American maiden that he had tattooed on his forearm, and he insisted it was fate. Fucking wackadoo, man. This woman had made the tragic mistake of accepting the ride that White offered. She was taken back to his house where she was raped, sexually tortured, humiliated, and ultimately strangled. However, for reasons known only to him, White decided not to bury her in the backyard. Instead, he drove 240 miles with her corpse in the trunk of his car. The burial site he chose was in Mesita, Colorado. White had grown up in this tiny community, and his father still lived there. His victim was committed to a sandy grave on the outskirts of town. Now, White directed a convoy of police vehicles back to the site. With an entourage of officers in tow, he pointed out the spot where he had co-signed his victim to the earth. A couple of officers started digging and soon uncovered the decomposed remains. The victim was later identified as Tori Marie Foster, a 25-year-old mother of two who had disappeared in 2002. Richard White had now confessed to the sex slayings of 3 women, but he wasn't done yet. He said that he had claimed 5 more victims, burying 3 of them at remote locations around the state and throwing the other 2 bodies into a river in Otero County. Jesus! None of those bodies were ever found, and White has never been charged. Given his propensity for lying, it is uncertain whether there is any truth to these claims or whether he is just trying to inflate his body count, something that serial killers frequently do. What is certain is that White released many more victims than he killed. Oh, really? Wow. After his arrest, several women came forward to describe their terrifying encounters with the ginger-haired 6-footer. White would often chastise the women that he picked up, warning them of the dangers of getting into a car with a stranger. He would then bring them to his home where he would subject them to hours of sexual torture and humiliation. The women who got out alive had no idea why White had allowed them to live while he killed others. White himself was ambivalent on the subject, although he did say that one victim reminded him of his sister, and he spared another one because she showed him a picture of her kids. So, indicted for the murders of Annalita Maria Gonzalez, Victoria Lynn Turpin, and Jason Zweigart, Richard White entered guilty pleas and accepted a sentence of life in prison without parole. An additional 144 years were added on for the rape and torture of 3 more women who had survived. Since White will never be released from prison, it was decided not to put him on trial for the murder of Tori Marie Foster. White mouthed the words, "I'm sorry," to the relatives of his victims as he was being led from the courtroom. But there was one more victim, one who was not mentioned in the indictment. White's sister Danielle had been privy to his confession long before he was caught. Remember, he told her he killed a prostitute and she didn't believe him. He had told her about the murders even as women were being snatched from the streets of Denver and driven away to their terrible fate. Danielle will forever be haunted by the knowledge that she could have done something but didn't. Yet, who can blame Danielle for her inaction? The truth might have been out in the open, but it was well hidden, buried among the many lies of Richard Paul White. It's almost like, the boy who cried wolf. They don't believe him when there actually is a wolf in the fairy tale. Yeah. So disturbing, though, that there are people out there like that just committing these murders and crimes, and half of them are never solved. And yeah, so had you guys ever heard of that case? Let me know down below. So I hope you're all having a fantastic Monday, another start to another week. As always, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments section below, and I will answer them to the best of my ability. Thank you so much for watching and subscribing, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, guys.